Brown glosses are perfect every time of year, but there's something that just hits differently about a brown gloss in fall. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, so let's go ahead and swatch and try on a whole bunch of different brown glosses. I've got some classics, I've got some new shades, but most importantly, I have something here for everyone, so let's go ahead and get into it. When I was making this video, the very first brown gloss that I thought of was Chaos Prone from Half Magic Beauty. This shade has been around for a while. It's got a medium opacity and it has multicolored sparkles throughout, and something I really like about this Half Magic Beauty formula is that even though the sparkles are quite prominent, it feels very smooth on the lips. I also find that the shape of the doe foot really does allow for a very precise application, which is helpful when you have pigmented glosses. When I'm applying this one, you can see right away how much pigment I'm getting even just with a few swipes. You can see that this is a perfect neutral brown, not cool, not warm, just right in the middle. Next, also from Half Magic Beauty, we have the shade Blushing Lizard, and this has become my favorite brown gloss from Half Magic. It surpassed Chaos Prone, and I'm sure most of you already know that Blushing Lizard is an already existing viral duochrome that Half Magic Beauty made quite some time ago. And I think that wearing matching shadow and lip gloss just is such a vibe. As you can see from the swatch, it has a reddish taupe base with kind of finer green leaning sparkles throughout. I absolutely love that they created a matching gloss to go with their iconic eyeshadow. This is definitely the type of shade I like to wear on a day-to-day basis. And just like Chaos Prone, I would describe this as comfortable, non-sticky, non-gritty. Next, of course, I have to talk about the hot chocolate glosses from Fenty, starting off with Hot Chocolate Fantasy. This is the original Gloss Bomb Luminizer formula. Of the shades that I'm going to show, this is the oldest and it's still my favorite. It has a warm reddish brown base and it has kind of pink leaning sparkles throughout. So I like to say this is the perfect cherry cola vibes lip gloss. And anything from Fenty that ends in fantasy is kind of more sparkly than their original Gloss Bomb Luminizers. This formula from Fenty is so incredibly comfortable, and that's why it's remained one of the top gloss formulas in my collection. Also good to know is that this is a permanent shade and I don't see it going away anytime soon. Next, we have the shade Rose Amber in their Gloss Bomb Oil formula, and there were a bunch of new shades that came out earlier this spring. This is a cool toned kind of taupey brown, and it has kind of small purple sparkles throughout. These sparkles, I would say, are not nearly as prominent or obvious as the sparkles in Hot Chocolate Fantasy, but they do make the lip oil a little bit more reflective. I recently have had some questions about how this formula compares to the original Gloss Bomb, and I actually would say it does feel quite different. It's still comfortable on the lips, but it is thinner. I personally feel like it moves around a little bit more than the original gloss does. I still like it, I just don't like it as much as the original gloss formula. If you're new to it, I do recommend picking up one rather than a bunch just to see how you get on with it. Next, we have the Fenty Gloss Bomb Shimmer Stick in the shade Hot Chocolate. This has more of a light to medium opacity. It is more of a neutral brown and it's got multicolored sparkles throughout. I quite enjoy this formula from Fenty. The sparkles look a little bit more prominent than either of the formulas that I've talked about so far. One of the consequences of that is that you may feel it a little bit more on the lips. I myself find this formula very comfortable, but it's just something that I like to mention because I've heard other people say they find them quite comfortable and other people find them to be a little bit on the gritty side. Either way though, this is a beautiful shade, and if you haven't tried this formula from Fenty, I recommend picking up a shade, especially if you like sparkly glosses. And here's what it looks like a little closer up. Next, we have a brand new lip oil from Milani. This is one of their Fruit Fetish lip oils, and they came out with fall themed shades, and seeing this release just made me so excited for fall because this was a beautiful capsule collection. This is the shade Hot Cocoa. I would describe it as having a light to medium opacity and it has very fine sparkles throughout. These have a sort of cozy and sweet scent to them as well. And you can see that as I'm applying it, you definitely get a decent amount of pigment, but it is lighter in comparison to some of the other glosses that I've shown so far. And the sparkles are much finer, so you don't see them quite as prominently on the lips. From NYX, we have one of their sparkly butter glosses. This is the shade Hustla, and it has the same type of vibes to Hot Chocolate Fantasy from Fenty. So if you are shopping on a budget, I think this is a good alternative. I will say that I feel like you can feel the sparkles in this one on the lips just a little bit more than you can with the Fenty. With the Fenty Universal Luminizer, I can't feel them at all. With this one, I can detect them just a little bit. I am just so impressed with how many shades NYX has in their butter glosses. It makes it so that if you are searching for a shade and don't know where to start, you have at least a decent shot by starting with the NYX butter glosses. From Fui, we have one of their glosses in the shade Scotch, and this is the 30% version. I have absolutely fallen in love with this gloss formula. The 30% is, of course, the more sheer option. You can also get a 70% that is quite a bit more opaque, but this shade in particular is kind of a mid-toned reddish brown. It has very fine, subtle sparkles throughout that just makes it a little bit more reflective looking. As I'm applying it, you can see just how shiny and juicy it makes my lips look. And I realize I'm talking about glosses, so a lot of them do this, but there's just something extra special about the ones from Fui. Next, we have a classic. This is Rum Raisin from Revlon. It might have been a bit of a stretch to include this shade in my brown glosses, but I would describe it as sort of a brown tone mauve. It has a buildable medium opacity. It doesn't have any sparkles in it. And I have to say, this is a really great, affordable formula. And I would say that if I were to compare this to the formula from Fenty, the Gloss Bomb sticks that don't have shimmer, I actually prefer this one. They just feel a little less messy. They're maybe a little less pigmented, so it feels like you have more control with the application and how evenly it applies. Here is a closer look at Rum Raisin. Next, from About Face, we have the shade Scorcher. I really wanted to include this shade, especially because I feel like I don't hear people talk about the gloss formula from About Face very often. They do have some very unique shades in this line. This particular shade I like because it's a very pigmented brown gloss. I find in general that a lot of glosses either have a very light opacity or medium opacity, but it's hard to get kind of a full opacity gloss like this. It feels very comfortable on the lips, and I think the shade is really pretty. I would describe it as kind of a mid-toned neutral brown. And here is what the first 10 shades I just talked about and tried on look like swatched my arm. All of my labels are from the wrist down. Next, we've got another shade from NYX. This is another butter gloss, but the original formula without any sparkles. And it's the shade Ginger Snap. This is definitely a My Lips But Better type of shade on me because it really is so close to my skin tone. And it's got a medium to high opacity. It's the type of shade I think is really going to flatter a wide range of skin tones. I think if you're looking for a shade like this and you're on a budget, this really is a great option. When I created a short form video on some of my brown glosses, actually someone brought this shade up as being a day-to-day favorite for them. And after trying it for myself, I can definitely see why. Okay, now we have a bunch of the MAC Lip Gloss Air formula. This came out earlier this year, and this was supposed to be a sort of solution for what had previously been described by many customers as a heavy, sticky lip gloss formula. This is the shade Quality, and I would describe this as a mid-toned chocolatey brown. It's got a medium to high opacity, it has a thinner formula, and it certainly does feel less sticky on the lips. I think it was very smart for MAC to come out with a new updated gloss formula. The packaging on these feels kind of more luxe, a little bit more sleek. If you've tried this formula from MAC, definitely let me know what you think in the comments. In this line, I'm actually going to show you several other shades as well, so in case you have your eye on some of these nude shades, maybe you'll find this helpful. This is the shade Casual, and I would describe this as a peachy brown. In comparison to quality, this is definitely a lighter tone. You can see that it is warmer as well. I also did want to mention that because this formula is thinner, it feels like the pigment of the gloss is a little bit harder to control than the original lip gloss formula, but honestly, it's probably a trade-off worth making. Next, also from the MAC Lip Glass Air line, we have the shade Aesthetic. I would describe this as a kind of mid-toned, mauvey, rosy-toned brown. I do like that they have all different undertones of these brown shades, especially given how many options there are when it comes to their nude lipsticks. I just feel like the range of MAC nudes is very impressive. Here is what the shade Aesthetic looks like swatched on my lips, and a closer up view as well. Okay, the last shade that I have in the MAC Lip Glass Air line is called Instinct. This one I would simply describe as a warm caramel. This typically is not the tone of nude shade I tend to go for, but when I applied it to the lips, I actually liked it more than I thought. I think part of it is that the MAC Lip Glass Air formula isn't fully opaque, but I think this is the type of shade I actually probably would have preferred with a lip liner. Next, we have a shade in their original lip glass formula. This is the shade Bittersweet Me. I would describe this shade as a mid-toned chocolatey brown. It's got pretty much a full opacity even on the first swatch, and I think you can tell as well that formula is a little bit thicker. This is definitely one of my own personal favorite tones of nude glosses to wear. I feel like there's just no fuss whatsoever. I could pair this with any eye look I wanted. And here's what it looks like closer up as well. Next, also in the original MAC lip glass formula, we have the shade Bow. Including this shade may have been a little bit of a stretch, but it has a caramel base with kind of golden leaning sparkles throughout. The sparkles in this one are highly concentrated, but are very fine. So when you apply it to the lips, you see it more as a pretty reflective sheen. Here is what Bow looks like fully applied, and then here is what it looks like closer up as well. Next, we have a new shade. This is from Juicy, and this is in their Glaze Rouge formula. The formula definitely feels reminiscent of the Fenty Gloss Bomb Shimmer Sticks. This shade is called Gilded Taupe, and basically it is a kind of reddish tinted caramel shade that has kind of fine golden sparkles throughout. I've been really enjoying this line from Juicy, and in general the sparkly kind of more exciting products that they've been bringing to us recently. I just don't remember that there were anywhere near as many cool releases last year as this year. Now from Maybelline, we have one of their lifter glosses, and this is the shade Maple. I think that is an absolutely perfect description for this shade because that is exactly the way this shade looks. It's sort of a mid-toned reddish tinted brown gloss. It has a medium opacity. I feel like in general I was pretty late to the game in trying this formula, and I can definitely see why it's as popular as it is because these are really nice, reliable, beautiful glosses, and they're quite affordable. And then last but not least, we have another Fruit Fetish lip oil from Milani. This is also one of their new fall releases, and this is the shade Pumpkin Spice, very aptly named because this is sort of an orangey toned caramel gloss. It's got a light to medium opacity and fine kind of golden leaning sparkles throughout. This shade is overall pretty close to my skin tone. It kind of gives my lips just a sort of tint of color. Here is what it looks like fully applied, and here is what it looks like closer up as well. And here is what all the shades I just talked about look like swatched on my arm, with the exception of the last two. Those two are not on my arm here. I think of all the shades that I've shown, we have some really great options, ranging from lighter to deeper, sparkly to not sparkly, sheer to more opaque. I feel like what's fun about this type of video is that there's just so many options out there that you're bound to not have heard about or seen some of the options I've shown. I would love to hear in the comments if you have tried any of the shades that I showed in this video, or if you have any other favorites yourself. Also, let me know in the comments what types of shades and formulas you gravitate toward in the fall. You can definitely expect some more fall-themed makeup videos in the near future. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found my video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.